Are you ready to get your fix?
Are you ready? Are you ready to get your fix? Are you ready? Are you ready to get your fix? Are you ready? Are you ready to get your fix? Are you ready? Are you ready to get your fix? Are you ready? Are you ready to get your fix? Are you ready to get your fix?
With the Wicks here on this beautiful Tuesday, April 26, 2022, and welcome to the show, whether that be on Facebook or on YouTube. If you're on Facebook, do me a favor, hit the like and the share. If you're on YouTube, hit the subscribe. It would be much, much appreciated. We are just now 2 days away from the first round of the NFL draft, and I could not be more excited, but also I could not wonder as much as I do of what the heck is going to happen, because I don't think anybody has a clue, including an agent of a couple players. That's correct. We'll talk about that in just a couple of minutes. The Giants and the Jets both picked up a fifth-year option for a couple of their players, and I do believe that's due to the fact that today was the last day to pick up players' fifth-year options, or I think they have until the draft or something like that. I know this week they have to pick up the fifth-year options. If they don't, the players that are currently currently are under contract, don't get their fifth-year option picked up, basically have to play that one season with the rest of the money that they are guaranteed for, basically, is how it is kind of all mapped out there. So the Giants did that, the Jets did that. What else are the Jets going to do? They own a couple, multiple picks in this year's draft. What are they going to do with that? Is Deebo Samuel a real possibility to go over and be the new wide receiver for the New York Jets? All that and more to talk about. The Carolina Panthers, will they be taking a quarterback in this year's draft? Seems like it, but maybe not. Atlanta also looking to maybe add some quarterback depth to their roster as well. They just signed Marcus Mariota just a couple weeks ago after trading Matt Ryan to the Indianapolis Colts, who needed a quarterback because Carson Wentz, he just wasn't cutting it out. He ends up going over to Washington. So, Carolina, Atlanta, adding quarterbacks. How many quarterbacks are going to go in the first round? Maybe I'll dive into that as well. With that being said, are you ready to get your fix? So a quick little tidbit here, or a couple tidbits before we get to the draft talk. The New York Giants have elected to pick up Daniel Jones' fifth-year option. They have 1 week from today. So next Tuesday, that is what it is. Next Tuesday is the final deadline to pick up players' fifth-year options. And the Giants, they have to decide whether or not they want to take Daniel Jones' fifth-year option. This is a tweet from Adam Schefter, one of the NFL Network's insiders, or NFL insiders. He says, by 1 week from today, the Giants must decide whether to pick up the fifth-year option on quarterback Daniel Jones' contract. That now would be expected to be worth $22.38 million. If the Giants decline that option, Jones would play this season on an expiring contract. So what does this mean? Well, obviously, if they pick it up, he's owed a buttload of money. But do the Giants want to take that risk? Because what we've seen from Daniel Jones is nothing spectacular. It is good football, not great football. He doesn't have receivers to throw to. His tight ends, not the greatest in the business. He lost Evan Ingram to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Kyle Rudolph, he ends up, I believe, leaving. He is a free agent at this point in time. Not sure if he's considered retirement. I'm sure that has crossed his mind a couple times. He had an illustrious career with the Minnesota Vikings. Goes over to the New York Giants because, well, it's time to move on and go over to Irv Smith Jr. He goes to the Giants, doesn't really have a good year, so to say, and he's now a free agent. So Daniel Jones really doesn't have any weapons to throw to. A lot of young receivers, a lot of receivers that were said to be the next one, the next guys out there after Odell Beckham Jr. decides to walk in free agency. But do the Giants want to pick up this fifth-year option? It's really interesting because what we've seen from Daniel Jones is neither great nor bad. He's had some good times. He's shown some times where, hey, we got to fix this, okay? Saquon Barkley's been hurt for him. But I think if you're the Giants, you look at your situation at the quarterback position and realize that, hey, a lot of insiders, a lot of people are saying this draft class doesn't hold a lot of high-caliber quarterbacks, doesn't hold a lot of quarterbacks that are ready to come into an NFL organization and immediately be a game changer. So what do? Well, do we want to pick up that fifth-year option? Or do we want to wait until next year's draft where there's potentially going to be those high-caliber quarterbacks like a Trevor Lawrence, like a Mac Jones, a Justin Fields, a Kyler Murray, a Joe Burrow? Do we want to wait and let Daniel Jones kind of earn that contract? Because if we do, obviously that means we're going to have to extend him halfway through the season if we find, if we know that he's capable of being our franchise quarterback for quite some time down the road. Or we just let him walk when we realize we could potentially get a game changer. Because the Jets and the Giants have historically, well, I guess not so much the Giants, but the Jets haven't historically been good. But over the past couple years, the Jets and the Giants have the exact same record, are the worst two teams in the National Football League, record-wise. So, if I'm the Giants, I say wait. Just in case there's a possibility that a guy like a Trevor Lawrence, that like a guy like Kyler Murray ends up falling to you in next year's draft. Deal with it this year. You have a whole new regime change. You have a new GM, a new head coach, new coaches in general, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. I mean, position coaches and stuff like that. This roster hasn't changed much. We've seen it last year where they really didn't do anything. They really didn't make any noise. They were out of the playoffs early on. It was very apparent that they weren't going to make it at all. So if I'm the Giants, I'm going to wait. Because $22 million for Daniel Jones, fully guaranteed, I don't know if I quite want to pay that. Just because for the simple fact that I think there's other quarterbacks in this league that are better than Daniel Jones. I think there are quarterbacks coming up or going to be in the draft next year that are potentially going to be better than Daniel Jones. There's always that one diamond in the rough. But if you wait, it also gives you an opportunity to look and see what Daniel Jones just might bring to your offense. And if he brings a lot of firepower, a lot of, upside, and has shown that his growth has been maturing year after year, then you sign him to that contract extension. Then you decide at that point to build around him. If you sign him to that massive contract, you have to build around him. So the Giants have a decision to make. Jeez Louise. They have a decision to make. Will it come in the coming days? Who knows? But they have 1 week to decide whether or not they are going to pick up Daniel Jones' fifth-year option, which would be worth $22.38 million fully guaranteed, I believe, is what it was said to be. The Cardinals, okay, they also have a week to decide from today whether they want to pick up the $29.7 million fifth-year option on quarterback Kyler Murray. Now, Kyler Murray has been reported or has come out and said he deleted all of his photos from Instagram that represented a Cardinal uniform or the Cardinals organization in general, unfollowed them and stuff. Since then, he's put the pictures back up, refollowed them and stuff. But he said, I want to get a contract extension, and I want it now. I just seen Aaron Rodgers get paid $150 million. Matthew Stafford got a massive payday. Deshaun Watson got a $230 million fully guaranteed contract. Joey Burrow is going to be coming up next. Lamar Jackson is going to be coming up next. I want my money, and I want it now. I want to make a lot of money in this league because what I was able to do last year and get into the playoffs, in which the Cardinals have had trouble doing so for the past couple seasons. In fact, they've had trouble finding a quarterback. After Kurt Warner, Carson Palmer, towards the end of his career, wasn't the greatest thing. They had Josh Rosen. Well, we've seen how that worked out. He is currently a free... I think he got picked up. I think he's like a third-string quarterback somewhere. So obviously, he isn't a guy. And then all of a sudden, this guy that got drafted number 1 overall in the MLB draft, the Oakland Athletic, Kyler Murray, comes in to make him whether or not they want to pick up his 5th-year option or sign him. I can guarantee if they pick up that 5th-year option, that, well, Kyler Murray might be a little pissed off. He might not want to play next season, but he's going to have to. And if they do pick up that 5th-year option, I have a reason to believe that they will also get a contract extension done for him before free agency takes place, whether that's during the season this year or that's before the season, during training camp, whatever the case may be. It's just they have to figure out the number side of it. They have to figure out what Kyler Murray is worth, which I think he's worth quite a bit of money, if I say so myself. I mean, instantly, when he went over to the Cardinals, he was an instant game changer. Superstars are made, but also potential busts will happen, where we get to see teams make maybe the right decision or completely the opposite, and makes you kind of want to scream at your TV, take your TV off the wall, unplug it, take it outside, throw it in the dumpster. Okay, we've had that before, especially, I'm not a Green Bay Packer fan, but I'm assuming a lot of Green Bay Packer fans wanted to take their TV and throw it in the trash after they selected Jordan Love, I believe with the 10th overall pick or something like that. Just ridiculous when they had Aaron Rodgers, who had just had an MVP season. Now he has a back-to-back MVP season. But the draft is a fun day. It's a really, really fun day because nobody has a clue what the hell is going to happen. Everyone before the draft, weeks before, I mean, these past 2 weeks, we've had mock drafts left and right. We have a mock draft 1.0. We have a mock draft 2.0, a 3.0. Things change. Things fluctuate. What are we going to do? Everyone seems to know everything. But at the same time, every single year, when it hits draft night, when the clock starts ticking down and there's 10 minutes to go and it's going all the way down to 0 until the pick is in, and then we hear dum, 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 dum. The Jacksonville Jaguars, with the first overall pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, have selected. Anything can happen. We've seen a lot happen in the NFL Draft, and I cannot wait for it, but this year is going to be exactly the same. We don't have a high caliber quarterback draft class. We have a couple wide receivers that are dogs. Okay, running backs, there's a good amount of them. There's like 4 or 5 of them that are pretty solid, but most likely won't get selected until the second round, late first round. Maybe only one gets selected in the late first round. Tight ends are going to probably wait till the second, third round. Maybe we'll see a potential tight end slip into the first round. I doubt it, but I don't know anything that's going to happen. I have no conversations with GMs, no none of that. So we just got to kind of keep our eyes peeled and ready to rock and roll, and the excitement will fill the air. And nobody has a clue what is going to happen. We can all speculate and make our own opinions on what potentially might happen. Who's potentially going to go number 1 overall? Who's going to go number 2 overall? Who are the Vikings going to select? Hopefully Derek Stingley Jr., hopefully Ahmad Sauce Gardner. One of those two would be awesome. If not, give me George Karlaftis from Purdue. That would be phenomenal. But nobody has a clue, including an agent of 2 of the draft prospects in this year's draft. This guy is an agent of Aiden Hutchinson and Ike Ekwonu, who's a tackle, I believe, for, Nebraska. Don't know why I couldn't think of that. But Mike McCartney said, it's Tuesday, and nobody knows. And I guess he is probably speaking about the number 1 overall pick that the current Jacksonville Jaguars hold. Who are the Jaguars going to select? Everyone thinks that the clear-cut decision is going to be Aiden Hutchinson because he's going to be an instant game changer. He has a lot of upside. This guy's going to play 10 years. He's going to be a Pro Bowler. He's going to make your team that much better. But a lot of mock drafts have had Aiden Hutchinson kind of bouncing between the 1 and the 2 pick because the Detroit Lions hold the number 2 pick, and Aiden Hutchinson is from Michigan, played on the Michigan Wolverines. What better place to go than the Detroit Lions? But they've also been switching Aiden Hutchinson around from the 1 and 2 pick because the GM of the Jacksonville Jaguars, Trent Baalke, has had a history of making some odd decisions come draft night. Trent Baalke has made many decisions in which he thinks is going to be the best possible pick for that organization. Who is going to have a lot of upside and bring an instant, aura around this locker room? Who is going to be a game changer and going to make a lot of noise? Is that Aiden Hutchinson? Yes, but no. A lot of people have been up and down on that, and Trent Baalke has historically kind of went away from the selection a lot of people think he should make. And that's what's making a lot of odds maker and a lot of mock draft makers think that Aiden Hutchinson might go number 2 and Ike Ekwonu could go number 1, or Travon Walker from Georgia could go number 1, or Kayvon Thibodeau could go number 1. There's multiple selections that the Jaguars could make. But a guy that I was just watching on the Pat McAfee show, Bob Carpenter, who played a couple of years in the National Football League, he was a first-round draft pick as well. He played for the Ohio State Buckeyes. He said, look, the number 1 overall pick, right? If you hold the number 1 overall pick, it's basically who you prefer to take. Because after that, it's like, okay, who's the best player at said position? And if he's the best player at that position that we have on our draft board, we'll take him. But the first overall pick, it's really, really hard. Because I don't play football or anything like that. This may not seem realistic, but look, I'm Madden. Okay, yeah, it's a video game. I'm Madden. When you do a franchise draft or a fantasy draft, you have the number 1 overall pick. How about this? Even in fantasy football, you have the number 1 overall draft pick. You have literally every single player to choose from. And you're kind of weighing your options. You're like, okay, well, we got a couple running backs. Do I take Dalvin Cook? Do I take Christian McCaffrey? Maybe Derrick Henry? Do I go for the wide receiver, take Devontae Adams, DeAndre Hopkins? Or do I go tight end? Do I go tight end right here and maybe take a George Kittle, a Travis Kelce, a Darren Waller? What do I do? Like, this is going to be, at the end of the day, it comes down to who you prefer to have on your roster. After that, once it's the second time to pick and you have your next selection, you're going to be like, okay, who's the best player at that position? I already got my preferred pick. Now let's go to somewhere else. Let's pick that position. It just constantly shifts and changes. So I think the Jacksonville Jaguars might not select Aiden Hutchinson. Even though it seems like the clear-cut option, they could go and make a splash move. Who knows? They could even trade out of the number 1 overall pick, because who wants to do that? Who wants to make that decision, the first overall pick? Maybe they swap places with the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions take Aiden Hutchinson, and the Jacksonville Jaguars like, okay, we know who we're taking right here. Bam. All right, we got it. Let's go. Lock it in. Sweet. So it's going to be a real, fireworks going to be made in Vegas. I cannot wait. We're going to have players arriving by boat, I believe, at the Bellagio or whatever the fountain is and stuff like that. It is going to be something else. I still personally really liked when we had COVID and the draft was in Roger Goodell's basement and he was on the TV. That was kind of cool to see, because you got to see the families, get excited, the emotion, the raw emotion, and it was awesome to see that side of things. And I think we're going to see more of that going forward. I mean, last year they brought Roger Goodell's chair to the draft. It was a whole spiel that they had for the draft, but nobody has a clue what the heck's going to happen in this year's draft, including myself, agents, GMs, owners. I mean, it is going to be chaos, and it's going to be fun chaos because dreams come true, tears get shed, families cheer and are excited, teams could be pumped up or pissed off and go to Twitter and social media and say all they want about how bad of an organization this is, or, oh, we'll never win a Super Bowl, or we got the guy, lock it in, we're going to the playoffs, no doubt about it. But nobody has a clue. Speaking of the draft, we talked about the Jets picking up a fifth-year option. They picked up fifth-year option for defensive tackle Quinnen Williams. So that's 11.5 fully guaranteed. For 2023. GM Joe Douglas said this would happen at the combine. So at the combine, he said, "Hey, Quinnen Williams, we're picking it up. Don't worry about it. He's a guy. We're going to give him one more year to see what he's actually all about. And if he performs at a high enough level, we'll give him a contract extension. We'll sign him." But with that being said, in this year's draft, the Jets own the 10th pick, the 38th pick, and the 111th overall pick. And they got those via the Jamal Adams trade and via the Sam Darnold trade. So there's a chance, that Field Yates has said on Twitter, that there's a chance to land 4 premium starters in the top 38. Absolutely electrifying right there. Sometimes I wonder if we talk enough about how awesome those trades were with GM Joe Douglas. So the Jets, right, have historically been absolutely they've been garbage, okay? They have never made noise. Mark Sanchez was supposed to bring him to the promised land. He couldn't get it done. Brett Favre was supposed to bring him to the promised land. Couldn't get it done, even though he was like the only quarterback to have a winning record for him. Geno Smith was supposed to lead them to the promised land. Didn't get it done. Now Zach Wilson, who is currently their quarterback, is supposed to be the one that makes some noise and gets them to the promised land. And well, after last season, you kind of shake your head and say, well, good fucking luck, because that ain't going to happen. The Jets always find a way to screw up, and it all goes right back to the draft. If they land 4 premium starters, I'd be surprised. Very, very surprised. A lot of people haven't taken Ahmad Sauce Gardner because they do need help in their secondary. They have nobody at the cornerback position that's worth a damn, so they need help there. But at the same time, you have to think that maybe Houston Texans decided to take Ahmad Sauce Gardner before them, so then the Jets are going to panic and be like, oh no, who do we pick now? Do we take our guy that we're going to take the 10th pick? Probably. All right, lock it in. And then they miss out on the guy that they probably should have had like 3 years from now, 5 years from now. We're going to look back at this draft being like, huh, Jets could have been good. So what the Jets need to do, in all honesty, find a way to get Deebo Samuel, because instantly that's going to be a game changer. That is going to help their offense tremendously. Not playoff probably potential, but it's going to help a lot because their defense, not the greatest in the world, okay? Probably one of the worst defenses in the National Football League, which is why they need help in their secondary, which is why they need help in their at their linebacker position, at their defensive line position. Like literally everywhere on their defense needs help. Especially after getting rid of Jamal Adams, who said, okay, this place stinks, get me out. He goes to Seattle. They trade Russell Wilson. They cut Bobby Wagner. So now Seattle's kind of in the dumpster. But the Jets have some decisions to make. And the first one I think they need to figure out is how to get Deebo Samuel, and then we go to draft night. And when draft night happens, let's get the guys that we think will be the best fit for our organization to potentially put our organization back in the climb to the mountaintop, which we've talked about. There's a mountaintop, and at the top of that mountain is the ultimate trophy, the Lombardi Super Bowl trophy. That is what every team's climbing up to try to get. Not every team gets it, right? It's just like Mount Everest. A lot of people try. Not everybody makes it. And the Jets want to. It's going to take some time. It's going to be about 3 years before they're good. Maybe 5 years before they're good or relevant. They're still in the same division as the New England Patriots, who have the mastermind, genius head coach, GM, owner, or half owner, whatever you want to say, Bill Belichick. They have the Buffalo Bills, who have been on an absolute tear as of late with Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs. Well, I could say Devin Singletary, but I still think they need to figure out their running back position. I mean, come on. Let's get somebody in there that's worth, running the ball. Because Devin Singletary, to me, not a legit number one guy. They need to figure that out. But they got Josh Allen, so it's no worry. Dawson Knox made an absolute amazing come-up last year towards the end of the season. They have a really good defense with Tre'Davious White, Jordan Poirier, Micah Hyde, what's his name? Tremaine Edmonds and stuff, or not Tremaine, yeah, Tremaine Edmonds. So their defense is fine. Their offense is fine. So the Jets need to do something. The Dolphins just got a new head coach, but they've been making a lot of moves. Signed the number one overall free agent rated by Pro Football Focus in left tackle Terran Armstead, who is formerly a New Orleans Saint. Then they find a way to trade for wide receiver Tyreek Hill. They stick with Tua. This offense, scary. All they need is a running back, and there's plenty of them. Their defense can fly around and make plays with Xavier Howard, Byron Jones. So they got dudes, but they got to figure it out. The Jets currently sit at the bottom of that division, have for quite some time, and will still sit at the bottom of that division. But I think if they grab Deebo Samuel, they have a shot at maybe being the third best team in their division. I mean, not much more than that, because it's going to be really, really tough for them to do so. So, with that being said, quarterbacks have been a high commodity, or a hot commodity this year. There's been multiple teams that have needed quarterbacks. A lot of them have already got it figured out via, like, the Colts. Colts landed Matt Ryan. The Washington Commanders found a way to get Carson Wentz. That was probably pretty easy. Russell Wilson goes over to Denver in a trade for Drew Lock and another person Drew Lock and Noah Fant. So Seattle might need a quarterback. Carolina might also need a quarterback. Atlanta might need a quarterback. Well, let's start with Carolina. You think Carolina's going to take a quarterback with a 6th overall pick? It's very possible. A lot of people have the Carolina Panthers selecting Kenny Pickett, who played at the University of Pittsburgh. Hand size is a little small, but the guy can sling it. He has a rocket, well, not really a rocket, but he has an accurate arm. He's ready to rock and roll, and he's an instant game changer. Well, could be an instant game changer. There's been a lot of smoke being blown, I think, about from all these pro days, from the combine, because the beginning of this whole off-season thing, or the whole beginning of these combine and stuff like that, it was said that this quarterback class, not the greatest thing in the world. But since then, opinions have changed. Oh my God, this guy he's next level. We need to go get him. Like, he's going to be a guy in the National Football League. Like, go sign him. From what I've seen, my opinion, there's 2 guys that are first round, maybe late first round, early second round picks. Malik Willis from Liberty and Desmond Ridder from Cincinnati. Those 2 show some real upsides. They show some promise. And Carolina holds that 6th overall pick. Do they want to take a quarterback? Well, from Ari Mirov at My Sports Update, works with Pro Football Focus, he says, the Panthers GM, Scott Fitter, says he believes there's a couple of quarterbacks in this draft worthy of being picked at number 6 overall, and he would feel comfortable doing it. Well, I hope so, because just a couple days ago, Ben McAdoo ate his words when he said, Sam Darnold's our quarterback. We're going to stick with Sam Darnold. And he's, actually, sorry, I really can't say that at this point, because I don't think people are sold on Sam Darnold. I'm not even sold on Sam Darnold. I think we've seen what we're going to get out of Sam with the Jets and the Carolina Panthers. He's not going to get any better. His ceiling has been reached, and that's just too bad, so sad. Like, you can't do anything about it. So Carolina, If they want to be in the mix of things, they're not going to go back to Cam Newton because the man, I think he's like 0-14 in his last 14 starts for the Carolina Panthers. So Carolina needs a quarterback. Do they take it at the 6th overall pick, or do they wait to the second round if that guy happens to slip to them? A very real possibility. I'd say maybe wait. Because if there's a chance that you could potentially trade for Baker Mayfield, I think that would be the best decision. Because you don't know what you're going to get out of these rookie quarterbacks, but you do know exactly what you're going to get from Baker Mayfield. Now, last year, Baker didn't have the greatest season at all. Okay, we understand that. But he was also dealing with multiple injuries that affected his play. He lost a receiver midway through the season, even though he never threw to that receiver. And when he did throw to that receiver never caught the ball anyways. Okay, so it's plain and simple. But you know what you're going to get out of Baker Mayfield. And that's a quarterback ready to make a run. That's a quarterback with a chip on the shoulder. That's a quarterback that has the potential to lead your team to the playoffs. Now, beyond that, I'm not so sure. But at this point in time, Baker seems like the number one option. Now, Baker Mayfield, if he does get traded, that team would have to pick up his cap space, which is currently at like $19 million, and not a lot of teams, if any, want to pick up that cap space at all. So the Cleveland Browns are going to have to eat some of that in order for that to happen. So if I'm Carolina, if they're not 100% sold on Baker Mayfield, take that quarterback. But if you think you can get Baker Mayfield and get some of that salary knocked off, land Baker Mayfield for your team, because I think that would only make him better. Atlanta, as well, is also searching for a quarterback. Sorta. Right? They lose Matt Ryan and during this whole off-season period to the Indianapolis Colts. What was next? Well, they were said to be in the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes because Deshaun Watson is actually from Atlanta, Georgia, and Deshaun Watson actually told or called the owner, Arthur Blake, and the GM or whatever, and said, I would like to sit down with you guys and see the potential possibility of me coming and being the new quarterback of the Atlanta Falcons. So they sat down, they had a meeting, and he not only had meetings with them, he had meetings with the Carolina Panthers, he had meetings with the New Orleans Saints, he had meetings with the Cleveland Browns, and ultimately in the end, he ends up a Brown. So Atlanta was kind of stuck. They're like, well, what do we do now? Well, they landed Marcus Mariota, a guy who was number 2 overall, I believe, in the draft just a couple of times. And when we got to see him take a step on the field, he was actually a pretty solid quarterback. But is that because he's always healthy? He's at 100% ready. He's never tired because he's on the bench. Okay, he doesn't have much to do besides sit there and watch and walk around and talk football. But I think ultimately the time was coming that, hey, let's give this guy one more shot. And Atlanta decided to do that. But as well as we might need to get another one also. Ari Mirov on Twitter, who works with Pro Football Focus, said, Falcons GM Terry Fontenot or whatever, said that they want to add to the quarterback room in the draft, and they've done all the work necessary on this year's class. Atlanta has 5 picks in the top 82. So right then and there, you got to assume Atlanta's taking a quarterback. Who is that going to be? Is it going to be Kenny Pickett? Is it going to be a Sam Howell, Matt Corral? Is it going to potentially be a Malik Willis, a Desmond Ridder? Who are they going to take? Not really sure. I'm assuming if Carolina takes the quarterback at that 6th overall pick, Atlanta will take the next best quarterback, and it could be Malik Willis. In my opinion, Malik Willis is the best quarterback in this draft. A lot of people are looking at Kenny Pickett, but Malik Willis, something about him tells me he's going to be a dude in the National Football League, and I cannot wait for draft night. 2 nights away. We are going to have a draft show where I'm going to be sitting down with 2 of my buddies, a couple of my friends, part of the show here. Guest host of Any Day He's Free, Y4, or John, whatever you guys like to call him. He will be with me. Logan Baumgart as well will be with me. We'll be at his place diving into all the selections that are being made, giving our opinions on what the heck just happened and why was that made, or that was a great pick, we should talk more about that. And we might even have a performance, maybe, okay, maybe a performance. We'll see what happens during that day. Still got some things to decide and things to figure out with the boys, but it'll all get done, and once that day comes, it'll be a glorious day. I cannot wait for that. But that is all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for joining, whether that's on Facebook or on YouTube. If you're on Facebook, do me a favor, hit the like and the share. If you're on YouTube, hit the subscribe. It'd be much appreciated. Enjoy the rest of this beautiful day. It's sunny. It's not the warmest out there, but it's still pretty warm. Enjoy it. Do whatever you guys watch or whatever you want. Watch the Minnesota Timberwolves tonight take down the Memphis Grizzlies and take a 3-2 lead. I hope that is the case. The Minnesota Wild play tonight. The Minnesota Twins play tonight. It's a great day. It's a glorious day. And I hope you all have a great one the rest of the evening. So with that being said, we'll see you tomorrow at 6 p.m. Central Time like always. And you just got your fix with the Wicks. Deuces, folks.